Thomas says, I wonder if the Mercurius story is related to the Islamic Genie thing, a spirit captured in the bottle. Exactly, that's exactly what it is. Chomping at the bit to hear the parable. But just before that, 4 more lines, Thomas. I want to just read the opening little bit here at the beginning of this, because this is Dr. Jung's predicate for this essay. He's here quoting a magic papyrus. He doesn't date it, and I don't have a date offhand, but it's a description of Hermes, and it seems to be in Greek, and so this is the English translation of the Greek. Hermes, ruler of the world, dweller in the heart, circle of the moon, round and square, inventor of the words of the tongue, obedient to justice, wearer of the chalames, shod in winged sandals, guardian of the many-sounding tongue, prophet to mortals. Okay, so that's a pretty all-purpose God. I call that the Swiss Army knife of God. So Dr. Jung says, children are still told Grimm's fairy tale of the spirit in the bottle, which is ever living like all fairy tales, and moreover contains the quintessence and deepest meaning of the Hermetic mystery as it has come down to us today. Quote, once upon a time there was a poor woodcutter. He had an only son whom he wished to send to high school. However, since he could give him only a little money to take with him, it was used up long before the time for the examinations. So the son went home and helped his father with the work in the forest. Once, during the midday rest, he roamed the woods and came to an immense old oak. There he heard a voice calling from the ground, "Let me out! Let me out!" He dug down among the roots of the tree and found a well-sealed glass bottle, from which, clearly, the voice had come. He opened it, and instantly a spirit rushed out and soon became half as high as the tree. The spirit cried in an awful voice, "I have had my punishment, and I will be revenged. I am the great and mighty spirit Mercurius, and now you shall have your reward. Whoso releases me, him I must strangle." This made the boy uneasy, and quickly thinking up a trick, he said, "First I must be sure that you are the same spirit that was shut up in that little bottle." To prove this, the spirit crept back into the bottle. Then the boy made haste to seal it, and the spirit was caught again. But now the spirit promised a reward to him richly if the boy would let him out. So he let him out and received as a reward a small piece of rag. Quoth the spirit, "If you spread one end of this over a wound, it will heal, and if you rub steel or iron with the other end, it will turn into silver." Thereupon the boy rubbed his damaged axe with the rag, and the axe turned to silver, and he was able to sell it for 400 thaler. Thus father and son were freed from all worries. The young man could return to his studies, and later, thanks to his rag, he became a famous doctor. Okay, so that is the story. And so it is the same story as the genie in the bottle, because the genie, and I think in the Arabian tradition, can grant 3 wishes. It's the spirit that is granting the wishes. And for example, I had a wish to become a lawyer. Be careful what you wish for. The spirit gave me the strength to become a lawyer. And I wanted to go back to Japan and run a company, and by golly, the spirit took me back to Japan and let me run a company. I wanted to found a public company. By golly, I did it. 1994, I founded a company on my back porch with two men from India, two Indian men, and together we created a company that became the largest company in its industry. Ultimately, it became a public company. But again, all of these things are be careful what you wish for, because in the case of law, I found that I didn't care for the practice of law. In the case of Japan, I found that no one was saving a job for me back home, and so there was no way to come home comfortably. In the case of the public company, that was all great until the crash of 2008, when my life savings were lost. And so, the spirit can push you onto something, but you have to be careful what you wish for. And very often they're things that you're not expecting. So the more you know, the better. So Andy says, like seeing a UFO or a ghost. Well, it's more than that, Andy. It's actually the spirit that makes you do anything. For example, I have no idea what the next paragraph will be in what I'm saying this evening. No idea whatsoever. But I have every confidence that my spirit will make me say something that will be the next paragraph. And that's true of our entire lives. We can't predict, and almost we cannot create things. We have to have the spirit that pushes you along. I often think of the scene from Chariots of Fire when Eric Liddell is running in the 440 and he throws his head back, and there's a voiceover that says, "So where does the power come from to see the race through to the end? From within." Then he tells his sister that when he runs, he feels God's pleasure. And those are all spiritual experiences. This is what always makes me chuckle every time I see a football player point at the sky after he's made a touchdown, because he hasn't understood where the spirit comes from. It isn't to say that God didn't do it. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that God isn't there. God is here. And we haven't understood that yet. But, whatever you do, whatever you are going to be doing 10 minutes from now, you probably can't predict it. And when that time comes, the spirit will move you to do whatever that is. It might be to turn off this live feed, or it might be to go on, or it might be to read along with me as we're talking about this, whatever it is. But that's the spirit coming through you and making things happen. Let me just read this next paragraph here. Paragraph 288. The encounter of the poor student with the spirit in the bottle portrays the spiritual adventure of a blind and unawakened human being. The same motif underlies the tale of the swineherd who climbed the world tree, and also forms the leitmotif of alchemy. For what it signifies is the individuation process as it prepares itself in the unconscious and gradually enters consciousness. The commonest alchemical symbol for this is the tree, the arbor philosophica, which derives from the paradisal tree of knowledge. Here, as in our fairy tale, a demonic serpent, an evil spirit, prods and persuades to knowledge. In view of the biblical precedent, it is not surprising that the spirit Mercurius has, to say the least, a great many connections with the dark side. One of his aspects is the female serpent demon Lilith, or Melusina, who lives in the philosophical tree. At the same time, he not only partakes of the Holy Spirit, but, according to alchemy, is actually identical with it. We have no choice but to accept this shocking paradox. After all, we have learned about the ambivalence of the spirit archetype. Our ambiguous Mercurius simply confirms the rule. In any case, the paradox is no worse than the Creator's whimsical notion of enlivening his peaceful, innocent paradise with the presence of an obviously rather dangerous tree snake accidentally located on the very same tree as the forbidden apples.